Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Shodhanandana Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana Jaya Shodhanandana Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana Jaya Shodhanandana Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Jnanantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabho Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Today we will be actually looking at the teachings of Bharat Maharaj. Before we get started, I just wanted to do a little recap. We are on the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is a series of books, which is actually a conversation between Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaja Parikshit. So, we know that all the living entities that live in the material world are just about 30% of all the living entities who are actually living in the spiritual world. So in the spiritual world, there's no birth, there's no old age, there's no death, and there's no disease. We all actually belong to that place. But we chose, which we'll talk about as we go, we chose to be away from Krishna. We wanted to be independent because, Mahaprabhu explains very nicely in his, Shikshashtakam, he gives some beautiful verses and he explains about how we can purify ourselves to go back home, back to Godhead. We have chosen, we have independence, and Mahaprabhu gives us Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, where he says that we are same in quality with Krishna, but we are very, very minute in quantity. So what does that mean is, like, suppose you take a sea and if you drink loads of sea water, it's going to be salty. Even a drop is going to be salty. So in quality, we are the same with Krishna. We are part of Krishna. But in quantity, we are just the drop, and Krishna is the ocean. So when we chose that we wanted to be away from Krishna, he creates this material world for us. So in this huge Brahman, there's a little corner called Mahatattva, where Karnanda Kashaya Vishnu is lying down, and from his skin pores, these material universes are emanating. They are like balls, like Bhagavatam explains them as footballs. So into each of the football enters another Vishnu called Garbhoda Kashaya Vishnu. He is lying down inside each of that so-called universe called like a football. Half of it is with Garbhodaka ocean, and Garbhodaka Shai Vishnu is lying down on the causal ocean. From his navel is a lotus stem that arises, and on the top of the lotus stem is a lotus, versus Brahmaloka. Now it is mentioned that there are various planetary systems in the lotus stem actually. So we are in one of those universes, one of those balls, and our Brahma has 4 heads. So why am I giving you this background is because I want to tell you why our Srimad Bhagavatam talks just about, a few kings and not about all the kings in every universe. Because we belong to a universe where these kings actually really lived. So in this particular stem, in the middle planetary system is where we live. We know where the mode of passion is very high. So the lower planetary system is mode of ignorance. The higher planetary system, you have mode of goodness. So the Bhumandala is if you can just imagine, if I cut a lotus stem, it will have a concentric round circle. So that Bhumandala was given to one of the sons of Manu called Priyavrata. So the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam starts with Priyavrata's story. And he is actually having the entire Bhumandala. He is taking care of the Bhumandala. Priyavrata was such a great king that when sun, we do understand from Bhagavatam that sun is actually riding on his chariot and he's going in circles around the place so that everybody gets the sunlight. But when sun goes, we know we have Uttarayana, Dakshayana, which we do talk about in Hindu culture. So when the sun goes on the right side, the north side, the southern side didn't get as much light. And the sun went on the south side, the northern side didn't get much light. So Priyavrata, he wanted some equality. So he, in his own chariot, started going in around with the sun, so that the sun's light will actually, the wheels of Priyavrata's chariot would actually reflect the sun, so that the brightness appears even in the south when the sun is in the north. The brightness appears even in the north when the sun is in the south. So he created that all Bhumandala. He was such a great king. That was Priyavrata. And while he did this, he actually created different kinds of dvipa. So one of the dvipas is Jambu Dvipa. Now today we're going to talk about why are we talking only about Jambu Dvipa. Like when we take our Bhagavatam, what we are reading at this moment, it is said that every universe has a unique set of Bhagavatam because they're probably dealing with their kings who took care of it and how they lived and how they went back to Godhead. So here we are talking about Priyavrata. Now Priyavrata had the entire Bhumandala, and he gave different sons different dvipas, which was divided in the Bhumandala. One of the dvipas is Jambu Dvipa. And the Jambu Dvipa was given to, it came down, it went to King Nabi. And Nabi's son was Rishabhadeva, who is none other than the Lord himself. So Rishabhadeva's son was Bharat Maharaj. But Bharat Maharaj, now again Rishabhadeva gave the Jambudvipa was again divided into different varshas. There are again different divisions of the Jambudvipa. The Bharata Varsha was given to Bharat Maharaj. Before Bharat Maharaj became the king, the Varsha which was ruled by Bharat Maharaj was called as Ajanabha Varsha. So it was not called as Bharata Varsha before. So it used to be called as Ajanabha Varsha. So today we will be looking at why is it that India, even now India is called Bharat, right? But Bharata Varsha is not only India, it consists of the entire planet and a little bit more. So Bharata Varsha, why did that come and what was the greatness of it? So we're going to look at the 3 lifetimes of Jada Bharata and how is it that it connects to our today's living? How are we going to gain from it? So I will not be going in detail about all the shlokas. We'll go over some of the shlokas directly from Srimad Bhagavatam, but I'm going to narrate this as a story. So Bharat Maharaj was a wonderful king. He took care of, his kingdom so beautifully. He didn't have anybody complaining. He was a great king. Now, when he got a little old, he really was not too old, but he knew that the purpose of life is to go back home, back to Godhead. He knew that this material world that I'm living has birth, old age, death, and disease, and I'm not going to live here forever. I need to go and focus my complete attention on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So he leaves his wife, his children, he gives the kingdom to his children. He says, I'm just going to go to the forest, and I am going to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here you see in the picture that he's sitting, he goes to a ashrama called Pulaha Ashrama. He goes there, he sits and he meditates on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, he is almost reaching the level of prema. He's like so close. He's achieved the highest benediction of understanding of Krishna, and he is completely dedicated. Can you imagine a person who actually has all the wealth, beautiful wives, and so many children would want to quit everything and go to the forest to do meditation on Krishna? So he's like, Krishna's very pleased. Now let's see what happens. While he is actually sitting down and meditating, he hears a loud, he's actually in the Pulaha Ashrama, it's actually in the forest, right? So he hears a big roar of an animal, I think it was a lion. So while he's not afraid of anything, because he's way above that. But he sees that little lake, and a deer, which is a pregnant deer, is trying to, it gets really worried, because of hearing that, some animal is going to come and eat me. So the deer starts jumping off the river. So while the deer is jumping, because of the fear, the deer delivers the baby. That baby deer falls in the water. The mom deer goes on the other side of the bank and she dies. So while he is meditating, he actually sees this scene. So he goes, because he has so much compassion for other living entity. He goes, runs, and picks up that little baby deer. And he takes the baby deer out. Well, till then everything went well. Now what he thinks is, oh my gosh, this baby deer doesn't have a mom and dad. He's all by himself in this world, and I need to take care of the baby deer. So he gets very attached to the baby deer. He doesn't let the baby deer drown. That's good. But then we will get to know when we, at the end of the story, when we look at all the reasons of what happened, why it happened, because of what he thinks now. He thinks that he needs to take the baby deer to his ashrama and take care of the baby deer. So that's what he does. So he feeds the baby deer. He's like his baby deer's mom, dad, gives a lot of affection. And the baby deer also gives a lot of affection to Bharat Maharaj. And he is so attached to the baby deer. When he sits down to meditate, he's doing his daily rituals, his daily devotional service. The baby deer starts disturbing him. But he doesn't realize that. He gets so attached to the baby deer that he thinks that he needs to, go and take care of the baby deer. And slowly, he forgets about his devotional service. He completely thinks that his life is the baby deer. So, we will go over a little bit of shlokas of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam to understand the situation. So he completely gets dedicated to the baby deer. Can you imagine a king who leaves his entire household, his kingdom, so much riches, so much of power, and then getting attached to a baby deer? So, of course, as Providence, everybody has to leave this world at some point. So, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Anta kale chamameva smaran muktva kalevaram. Whatever you think at the time of death, that's what you achieve. So, while he is sitting down, and he's in a completely debilitated condition. He's just not able to do anything. He's almost going to die. His little baby deer is next to him. He's looking at the baby deer and he leaves his body. And here, there are two questions that arise. Krishna says, if somebody does even a nimitta matra for me, I will not let that person go down, right? So we'll see what happened to Jada Bharata. He was a great king. He did everything according to the regulative principles. He gave up the household. He came. But Maya Devi was so strong that he could get attracted towards the deer. Next life, Jada Bharata is born as a deer. Now, here comes a question. Prabhupada explains this so beautifully. He says, how come he did so much in his life and he still became a deer? We're only thinking about a human body at least next life, right? But Krishna is very merciful. We have this body. We change this body all the time. We go to different bodies, but we have the same mind for time immemorial. We've been carrying the same mind. So we're a package. Like, we can understand this example which Chaitanya Sharan Prabhu gives a very nice example. He says, you are this hardware. Your hardware is your body. Your software is your mind. So the software is always the same. It's been there with you for time immemorial. That's why we have different personalities. We have fears, we have different kinds of thoughts and things. We do have some of the things that we carry from our past because of our karma again. We will not remember everything, because if we didn't have that in our karmic manifestation, we will not. So when we carry this mind through all these, the amazing fact is, even though in the body of a deer, Maharaja Bharat remembered his past life. And he realized, wow, what a big mistake I made. I was a king and I got attached to a deer. I left everything that I had and now I'm suffering in the body of a deer. So he knew that what he had to do. He had to dedicate his life to Krishna. As soon as he was born to his mommy deer and mommy daddy deer, he left the mommy deer and the daddy deer, and he went back, because he was actually, Bhagavatam says, he was actually born in a forest very close to the Pulaha ashrama, where he left his body. He goes back to the Pulaha ashrama. And entire time, in the body of the deer, he is meditating on Krishna. And so that is what Srila Prabhupada explains in his purports. He says, Krishna doesn't let you go down. He makes you remember, even though you are attached because you had an independence to be attached to anything you want. He can come between your independence. Unless I surrender to Krishna and say that, Krishna, I'm just yours. I don't want the independence. I just want to be dependent on you. The real independence is when we completely depend on Krishna. So now he, in the deer's body, Bharat Maharaj goes and stays in Pulaha ashrama, and he dedicates his thoughts completely to Krishna. He has no connection with any other deer family, any other human family. He's only focused on his meditation. Of course, he again gets a human body now. This is his third life. This is the story of Jada Bharata. So, Jada Bharata is born now to a wonderful Brahmin family. The dad is very pious, and he wants to teach Jada Bharata everything that is according to Shastra. You should do this, because of so much pious credits that he had. Bhagavad Gita does tell us that when you have a lot of pious credits, then Krishna makes sure that you are born into a very pious family where you don't have to go through all the simple stuff. You don't have to work towards getting to that. But Jada Bharata has gone through lives. He still remembers his past 2 lives, because that's the mercy of Krishna to help him get out of this material universe, because he is a pure devotee. Now, to me, I always feel that all the stories of Srimad Bhagavatam is just a story for us to teach, for us to learn from. These souls are very, very unique. I mean, can we imagine that we are talking about them after so many thousands of years? I mean, they are so close to Krishna. So they are it's more of an enactment for me. Like when Arjuna has been put into bewilderment by Krishna, do you think Arjuna can actually be a person who can get bewildered? Where he's actually having a conversation directly with Krishna? Krishna chose him because he was his close friend. So Krishna also mentions in Bhagavad Gita that if you don't have the envy, when you have envy against Krishna, you won't understand Krishna, because that's the secret of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is an open secret. So its book is available for everybody. Everybody can read it, and everybody can understand it. But there are different people understand it at different levels, because of, he says, ye yathamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyam. Like the more surrendered you are, the more better you understand me. It's a very simple analogy. Like if I have a deep more secrets in my heart about myself, I'd never go tell it to somebody who's envious of me. I'd go tell somebody who has faith in me, who's my well-wisher, right? So it's a very simple this way. Krishna would reveal about him only to those people who are really very simple. And the greatness is, he's a Paramatma in our heart, so he knows exactly what we feel and how we feel and whether we are envious or not. So here Jada Bharata is now the child of a Brahmin. This Brahmana had 2 wives. The older wife had 9 sons, and the younger wife had 1 son and 1 daughter. And that second wife's son is Jada Bharata. He acted as the fool from the time he was born. He had nothing to do with the whole world. So he was like sitting down. His dad would tell him that, when you go to the bathroom, you have to go to the bathroom and then wash your hands. But he would go to wash his hands and then go to the bathroom. So he will do exactly opposite to what his dad said. He acted like a crazy person. He acted as if he will never understand any shastras. He acted as if he hardly spoke to anybody. His dad was very attached to Jada Bharata, and he was like, I really want you to learn, because how would you live? You're a Brahmana. You need to go do different things to people. That's how you earn your living and things like that. But he had no connection with that. The dad tried his best. He tried to teach him a lot, but in vain, according to us. I mean, when people see him from outside perspective, it's in vain. But Jada Bharata was way above all these rituals, and he was constantly meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his mind. Outwardly, he looked absolutely like a fool. So after, as time went by, his dad passed away. Now, the younger wife, who was Jada Bharata's mom, told the older wife that I'm going to die with the husband too, so please take care of my 2 kids. So Jada Bharata and the girl went under the care of the first wife. The first wife's 9 sons, they were very, 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 very mean to Jada Bharata because they felt that he was just a fool. He didn't know anything, and they would give him leftover food that is spoiled. Jada Bharata wouldn't mind. He didn't care for anything. He just go wash it and just eat it. He didn't mind. He didn't care for anything that is material. He didn't care for whatever happens to the body. So he was, a very, very high-level pure devotee. So one day, his brothers, so step-brothers, told him that he has to sit all night in a farm. They used to do farming, so they wanted to make sure there is nobody who comes and takes away their grains and stuff that they store in the farm. So they told them, just sit there. So in farms you have the hay bunches. So Jada Bharata was sitting on one of the hay bunches, and for him it didn't matter. He was not thirsty. He was not hungry. He was not affected by the dualities of the material nature, like cold, hot. No, it doesn't matter. Sleep, awake. I mean, he was all out of it. He was sitting and meditating to the Lord. Now, in the same town, there a set of dacoits. The dacoits, what they did is the head of the dacoit wanted a son. And he said that, I need a person who is a human being, but like an animal. So I can give in sacrifice that particular human being to Kali, so that once I offer this, once this is done, I will be able to get a son for myself. So we know that there is a mode of ignorance worship. So that's what the dacoit believed in. So he said, so he finds one person, and then they are ready to offer, and the person runs away. So dacoit's very upset. He's extremely, very bad person. So he tells all the other people who work under him that you cannot come back home without finding this person. So these other dacoits, they actually go in search of this person who ran away. But while they're going, they actually see Jada Bharata there. And Jada Bharata, he doesn't respond to anybody's calls. So they think he's really a fool and he's like more an animal. So we'll take him. We'll take him and offer him to Kali. So they get him, and then, Jada Bharata actually was very stout. His body, his muscles, and his, well built up man. So they get him there, and Jada Bharata is so much dedicated to Krishna. He's not even thinking whether I'm going to die or live. It didn't matter to him. He knew, we'll get to know towards the end when he teaches all these aspects to another king, how the mind is what matters. What I think in my mind is what matters in the entire world. So he says, if my mind is completely dedicated to Krishna, I don't mind what happens to my body. So if my mind is dedicated to Krishna, when I leave the body in whatever situation where Krishna is the cause of all causes, I'm going to go back home, back to Godhead. It doesn't matter. He is ready for everything. So he says, if I had to be killed in this situation, so be it. I'm not going to say no. So he stands in front of Kali, and the dacoit picks his big knife, and he's going to chop off his head. And Kali Mata, who's in that statue, she just comes out of it. There's a beautiful picture in Srimad Bhagavatam. She comes out of her statue, and she chops every dacoit's head. She won't let anybody touch Jada Bharata, because she knows he's a great devotee of the Lord. And Prabhupada and His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj explains in a lecture, he says, We know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we pray to Krishna, he's the root of a tree. Every part of the branch, every part of the tree is taken care. Kali Devi, Durga, we live in a place called Durgam. Durgam in Sanskrit means prison house. Durga Devi is caretaker of this prison house. She is the sister of Krishna, and she is, she actually takes care of everybody here. She has 3 tridents. She's holding a trident which has 3 spokes. So it's Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, and Adidaivika. So we have Adhyatmika means the problems caused by, miseries caused by our own mind. Adibhautika means all the miseries that's caused by the forces of nature. Earthquake, tornado, any kind of thing like floods. And Adidevika, Adibhautika, is actually the problems caused by other living entities to us. And Adidevika is the forces of nature. Because Adidevika is, it's all that is caused by the demigods. Like, for example, if it has to be a tornado, Indra, all the different demigods, they have their own jobs to do. So she is the one who takes care of the entire prison house. She's like the jailer. She wants to make sure everybody stays there and learns their mistakes and then goes back. But she will be testing on and off. So it's very nicely explained in many lectures where it says that Radharani is the pleasure-giving potency for Krishna. She is the Shakti. She is, she's called the Ladini Shakti, right? So she gives the pleasure. But it's her expansion is Kali Devi. So if somebody wants to really go back home, back to Godhead, they have to worship Krishna. They don't have to worship any of the demigods. There's no question. But then it's also said you have to be very, very, very respectful to all the demigods because they are doing their duty to Krishna and they are Vaishnavas too. So we had no one to offend them. And we know that, like in this particular instance, Prabhupada says, Kali Mata knows that he is a Vaishnava. And when a Vaishnava aparadh is committed, the description in Bhagavatam is very gross. They say that the skulls were played up like balls. So it's very deep description. We don't have to go so much in detail because we don't have the time. But she literally chops everybody's head off because that is what happens to a person who does Vaishnava Aparadh. So we should never do Vaishnava Aparadh. Prabhupada says it again. So here, and then she worships Jada Bharata and she lets him go. Because she knows he's a devotee, nobody should harm him. So now Jada Bharata is like, okay, so Krishna didn't decide to do anything to me in this situation. He walks out. While he's walking in the forest, he comes across a river. And, there's a very close place called Sauvira. And the king of Sauvira is King Rahugana. So Rahugana is actually going in as palanquin. And usually you know that if people have to carry the palanquin, there should be 4 people. So the 4th person had some problem and he's unable to carry the palanquin. And so the other 3 people are looking for somebody who can help carry the palanquin. So he says, Jada Bharata is just walking down the lane and he says, and these 3 people ask him, can you help carry the palanquin? He never says anything. He never says no. He never says yes. He's in his own, meditation. He just goes and starts helping. He starts carrying the palanquin. So here you see Jada Bharata carrying the palanquin of King Rahugana. Now, King Jada Bharata is so compassionate on every living entity. He doesn't want to stamp on any ants. So he is holding the palanquin in such a way that he doesn't step on any ants. He's walking, slowly. He will look 3 times before he puts his next leg. Now King Rahugana starts screaming. He says, why is my palanquin not being taken right? So the other 3 people say, no, King. They're very afraid of King because he will punish them. Oh, King, please, we're really sorry. It's not us. It's this new person that joined us. He doesn't carry the palanquin well. So he shouts at him. He says, can you just do the job nicely? He doesn't say anything. And then again, he starts walking. And after 3 steps, again, he stops to see if there are ants. Now, the king of Sauvira is really upset. And he says, are you too weak? I mean, because he's actually trying to criticize him in a very sarcastic manner. Because actually, Jada Bharata was, as I said, he was a very stout person, very tall, very, very big person, big build. He says, "Oh, are you too weak to carry this palanquin?" And he really criticizes him heavily. Jada Bharata doesn't respond. And then he starts walking again. After 3 steps, he has to stop to look again. Now, King Rahugana just cannot hold himself anymore. He says, "I am your master, and I want to tell you that if you don't listen to me, I will absolutely punish you." Now, Jada Bharata, since he was a kid, he probably never spoke to anybody. I mean, at least Bhagavatam doesn't say he ever spoke to anybody. So he stops and he says, "You think you are the king? You're the king now, but I could be, no, you think you're the master? You're thinking now you're the master, but I could be your master next time. You're thinking, yes, what you said, everything what you said is right. This body can be thin, it can be fat, it doesn't matter." And he explains, so we'll go a little bit in detail of what their conversation is. That's our main part of this class today. So he is saying that, I'm not this body. The palanquin is made of earth, right? It is made of earth, right? Because it's made of wood. It's made of, so our body is also made of earth, water, fire, air, ether. These are Panchabhuta, we call, right? He says this body is also my knees, my calves, my elbow. He literally says this. He says these words and he says, all of these are also made of earth. And the palanquin carriers are made of earth. The palanquin is made of earth. And the person sitting in the palanquin is also made of earth. But the only problem here is, the person sitting inside the palanquin thinks that he is the body. That's the problem. And now King Rahugana suddenly, he feels like, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. Because he's a wonderful king too. I mean, again, it's not just out of blue that, King of Sauvira was to walk there, right? It was the conversation that we had to learn from. So he just gets down from his palanquin and he surrenders to Jada Bharata and says, "Can you tell me who you are? I'm really sorry I offended you." He says that I've done a big offense by doing this. Who are you? He doesn't say anything about it, but he explains. He says that I'm not this body. I'm a soul that lives in the body. I have no connection with this body. What happens to the body? I don't care. You are chastising the body? I don't care. Because that body doesn't belong to me. I'm going to leave that body at some point of time and I'm going to go. I have nothing to do with that body. Why am I worried about that body? And then he says that, then King Rahugana says, can you explain these things better to me? And that's the conversation that both of them have. He explains that this material world is a forest. Even in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Urdhva madashakam ashwattam prahuravyam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam vedasa vedavat. He says, this entire, he's considering this material, the whole banyan tree. It is said that the banyan tree, why do they compare Ashwatha Vriksha is the banyan tree? The banyan tree is on the shore of a, it's on the shore of a bank of a river. So you will see the banyan tree's leaves and stem to be the bottom in the river, right? Because the reflection is exactly opposite. So I remember this analogy, I think I told this before. Many years ago, I was doing a Sunday school class, and I remember I asked one of the students, if I wanted a fruit from a tree, what would I do? Can any of you tell me? If I just wanted to take a fruit from this tree, and the fruit is on the tree, and what should I am supposed to do? And while I was asking this question, one of the child in the class answered, "Oh yeah, we already made the mistake. We jumped into the water to get the fruit." And I was like, I had never understood the meaning of that shloka before. And I was like, that's so true. Because in the material world, it is explained, it's an exact reflection of the spiritual world. What is most important there is least important here. We are extremely envious. The whole material world is based on envy. Envy is what causes lust, greed, anger, pride, illusion, fear, everything. When I leave the envy, especially towards Krishna, because why he, why not me? That's the reason we are here. Everybody, it was very hard for me to understand that, I'm not envious of anybody. No, I am. When I just go into deep down into my head, heart, and understand things, wow, it's just amazing to understand that. So we are looking for pleasure in this material world, which actually the tree doesn't exist here. So we have to get out of this water and climb the tree and go get the fruit. So that's what we need to do. Now, why I mentioned that is here he's mentioning the material world as a forest. And the person, every living entity is like a merchant. What is it for me? A merchant is always doing business. I do something because I am going to get something. It can start with just me. It can go to my family. It can go to my nation. All kinds of isms that go on in the material world. There is never a person who does something unless he probably tries to become Krishna conscious. He will never do anything just for himself. He's a merchant who goes in, he's a Vaishya. He wants to do a business. What kind of enjoyment can I get? Oh, can I get an enjoyment to prove that I'm great? Can I satisfy my false ego? All these things. And, he says that there are a wonderful explanation, and I'll just maybe one of you can read that. We'll just do a few shlokas from Srimad Bhagavatam directly. Mataji, can you read it? Can you see it? It's too small? Yeah, please, you can read, Mataji. Do you have a mic? Yes, please.
5.11.5. Because the mind is absorbed in desires for pious and impious activities, it is naturally subjected to the transformations of lust and anger. In this way, it becomes attracted to material sense enjoyment. In other words, the mind is conducted by the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. There are 11 senses and 5 material elements, and out of these 16 items, the mind is the chief. Therefore, the mind brings about birth in different types of bodies among demigods, human beings, animals, and birds. When the mind is situated in a higher or lower position, it accepts a higher or lower material body.
So, as I said, giving you the analogy of Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's, where he says this body is a hardware, but my mind, what I think, what I feel, is what determines where I'm going to go in my next life. That's just one of the most important. These are teachings of Jada Bharata to Rahugana. He says, you have to quit your kingdom now. Go and meditate, do the things, just focus. But Srila Prabhupada explains this so nicely to us. He says, we can be working in our office, we can be taking care of our family. But our attachment, if we cook for Krishna, if we clean for Krishna, if we have a small temple at home for Krishna, we're getting our mind to do everything for Krishna. Because we cannot, being practical in this Kali Yuga, I cannot just leave everything that I have and go sit in a forest. I won't be able to focus, right? So I have to do everything that I have to do, but do everything for Krishna. That's what Krishna tells in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga. So here he says that if my mind, now why does he say 11 senses? Because I have 5 senses. I use my ears, my eyes, my nose, touch, and smell. So I can see. So all these 5 senses that I use, also they're called as, there is karmendriyas and there is jnanendriyas. There is, this is something that we have to go more in deep. There is a subtle, we call it this as a gross body, because gross is something I can see, I can feel. Oh, I have my legs, I have my hands, I have my seas, I can see my eyes. But what makes these things see? What makes these things? They are subtle body. So subtle body consists of mind, intelligence, and false ego. These things I cannot see. but they are eternally with me. They are connected with me. They take my soul from one body to another. So it's so important that the different types of the bodies that I take, I am the one who decides. I have a choice. So making a choice is in my hands. My mind tells me, so how do I do that? So Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, the 5 horses are the senses. These 5 horses are held by ropes, and the rope is the mind. The person holding the rope is the intelligence. The charioteer is the intelligence. And the person who's having the ride in the chariot is actually the soul. And Krishna, mercifully, is always sitting with us in the ride. But he's not affected by the ride. But when we turn to Krishna and ask him for help, he always helps us. So a person can have a bumpy ride because the intelligence is not sharp. And how do I make my intelligence sharp? I have to read Srimad Bhagavatam every single day. Now here, in this particular situation, in the 5th canto, they talk about the mind. Again, in the 11th canto, Uddhava Gita, they talk about the mind. So mind happens they talk about mind in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna very, very systematically explains us how I can control the mind. So if my mind is completely dedicated to Krishna, when the mind is situated in my higher position, I take a higher position. When a mind is situated in a lower position, I go to a lower position. Amazing fact is, Mahaprabhu says in Shikshashtakam, Cheto Darpanam Arjanam Bhavamaha Dhavagni Nirvapanam. He says, our mind is like a mirror. Can you imagine? It's actually not a living entity. It's a material thing. The mind is just, our soul is a living entity. The senses are controlled by the mind. Mind is controlled by intelligence. The intelligence should be controlled by us, the soul. But what happens is we let the mind control the soul. And that's the problem that we are facing now. So, Harinama Sankirtana, when we chant, I was just listening to this beautiful lecture by Her Grace Urmila Mataji. She was saying that, when we chant Hare and Krishna, Hare is Radharani and Krishna is the Supreme Person. When we put Radharani and Krishna together, when we moved away from Krishna to the material world, we wanted to enjoy without Krishna. So enjoy means we're actually taking away Radharani away from Krishna. Because she's the pleasure-giving potency. But she is actually made for Krishna. When I want to enjoy without Krishna, and I suffer. But when I again put Radharani and Krishna back together, I feel the happiness. Because I am part of Krishna. I am the root. I am the part of the root. That is Krishna. Like I am part of maybe I'm a little tiny twig there. So when I pour water to the root, automatically the twigs are happy. I don't need to spray water, only the twig. And for a long time, if I spray water to the twig and don't pour water to the root, the tree is going to die. The plant is going to dry, right? So when I put Radharani and Krishna, when Radharani and Krishna are happy with each other, I automatically become happy because I am part of him too. So, but when I am going away from Krishna and I am doing things myself, I'll feel momentary happiness and again momentary sadness because that happiness is not complete. It's very minute. I'm used to that spiritual bliss, the Satchidananda thing that I have always experienced, and I'm always looking for that. That's why we are never happy with whatever we get. We might become millionaires, we might have the best husband in the whole world, we might have the best children in the world, we might have everything. Everything, we will never be very happy. Why? Because we are supposed to serve Krishna, that's what gives us happiness. So here he says, if you want to go higher level in your life, you can choose. You can choose going up in the lotus stem. We had talked about the lotus stem in the beginning. I can go to Indraloka and have lives forever. People enjoy life forever there. But again, when my pious credits are over, I have to fall down again to this lower modes, and then I have to suffer my life. So why do that? And then the next, he says, Prabhu, do you mind reading it?
The materialistic mind covering the living entity's soul carries it to the different species of life. This is called continued material existence. Due to the mind, the living entity suffers or enjoys material distress and happiness. Being thus illusioned, the mind further creates pious and impious activities and their karma, and thus the soul becomes conditioned.
So here he says that the materialistic mind, again, now, okay, fine. I mean, I understand all this theoretically. My mind says, jumps up and says, hey, hold on. While I'm chanting, how do I understand actually what my mind is? When I'm sitting down to chant, immediately my mind says, all the thoughts I get comes from my mind. I'm just still sitting there. Oh, I have to send the email. Remember, I have to send the email. That's my mind. So mind is considered like a monkey. It wants to jump from one thing to another. It'll constantly go. But if you've observed, when my first round is going on, it will jump a lot more. But when I'm at the 16th round, at least a little better. It'd still be jumping. At least for me, it does the jump. There might be people who totally give up the jumping by the time they are in 16th round. So when you try to, so he says that you suffer, you enjoy. It's like a flow chart in a computer. I think most of you are computer professionals. So, like when you say yes to something, it continues yes. Just for example, think of people who go through depression. They have some bad thought. They give more emphasis on the bad thought. It continues. They give more emphasis on the bad thought. It continues. They give more emphasis on the bad thought. It continues. People who are very positive in life. You give positive thinking, you give emphasis on it, it again becomes more positive. Now, he says very beautifully, so Rahugana asks him, you're telling me all this, you have to control mind, how do I do it? He says, understand with your intelligence what is important for you in life. So when things that come in your head which are not important, what should you do? Neglect. So the only thing that he says, you should just neglect the negative thoughts, anything. What is negative? Anything that takes you away from Krishna. Like for example, I have this every single, I will not say every single day now, I used to have it a lot more. But, like for example, if suppose somebody is coming and telling me about some particular movie that's been released, okay? Well, I used to love to go watch movies. It's been 20 years that I'm in Krishna consciousness, but I want to tell you that even after so many days of chanting, if somebody tells me an old song that I used to sing for an orchestra, an old song that I used to sing for the orchestra, it just comes back to me. Conditioning is so heavy. And then I was like, my God, where did that purification go? Did I even ever purify anything? No. When that comes, I neglect it. When I neglect, it comes back again. I neglect again. It goes back. And then I will not think about it for some time. Of course, again, when somebody else sings or somewhere else I hear, I will remember it. But I have to neglect it. So when I keep neglecting those things, my focus comes back to what I'm doing. Like, what's my purpose of life? Am I going to be worried about all those things that I did in the past? I know it will take me lifetimes to get rid of things that I have accumulated in my mind for all these years, all these lifetimes. But at least it's a starting point. He says that neglect, forget it. Don't even listen to what your mind is saying. And this is the main thing. You can imagine that this is actually a treatment for depression too. If they have a thought, it's just the thought that comes in your head. You neglect the thought. It's the same, like when somebody comes and talks to you, you neglect that person. The person will try again, you neglect again. That person will never come back to you. Right? So we see that in so similarly, even with the thoughts, if I neglect the thought, so as soon as Radhanath Maharaj was giving this lecture in Pune Yatra, he was saying that, so how do we control the mind? And everybody was like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. They were just chanting. And then he said, that's not what Rahugana says. And then everybody's like, oh my gosh, I thought it was chanting. Yes, it is chanting chanting in one sense, but he says, when the thought comes, if you just chant and get worried, it's not going to help. You have to neglect the thought. And then, of course, how chanting helps is, when I chant regularly, my mind listens to me. Because I'm controlling my mind by just listening to the mantra. The mantra goes into my mind and purifies my mind. And when I start purifying my mind, I still remember one of my friends said when she started chanting first, she said, oh, when I chant, I'm so much more disturbed. Why? Because if I have a dirty room, it looks dirty. I need to start cleaning. When I first start cleaning it, it's going to get more worse first. And then it starts getting cleaned, right? But then you have to constantly chant. But in true sense, it's not that difficult. It's very simple. Prabhupada says, somebody asked him, Prabhupada, how to chant? He says, just say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just say it and listen. Yes, it's going to be hard because when I say it, many times I don't listen to it. Because my mind is so occupied thinking everything else but the mantra. But practice makes a man perfect, right? I mean, that's what Krishna tells Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. He says, Abhyasena tu kaunteya. He says you can get vairagya, you can get everything, but you have to do abhyas. You have to practice. Can we do the other one? Can you read the next one, please, Mataji? Yeah.
There are 5 working senses and 5 knowledge-acquiring senses. There is also the false ego. In this way, there are 11 items for the mind's functions. O hero, the objects of the senses such as sound and touch, the organic activities such as evacuation, and the different types of bodies, society, friendship, and personality are considered by learned scholars the fields of activity for the functions of the mind.
How many times have you heard that attitudes are contagious? Attitudes are contagious. So when we are with a set of our friends, or let's call them at work, or when they keep talking, they keep bitching about somebody else, they keep talking bad about somebody else, it doesn't take too long for us to start doing the same thing. Similarly, when we are with devotees who are very advanced than us, and when we hear them, or like for example, I would always come to hear lectures just because I can, get fueled. So we do have that situation, right? He says, so the mind's function, it connects with, it could be the society, the friends. So this is all very important. Who do we connect with? Our mind is exposed to some kind of a mode, it just picks that mode. And our mind is connected to some kind of person, it just picks that very fast, especially when you're constantly associating. It's not very difficult. So this is one of the main functions. So we talked about the 5 working senses that we know, 5 knowledge acquiring senses that works with the working senses, and false ego. What does false ego mean? False ego means that, actually what is real ego? Real ego is I'm the servant of Krishna. I can be really happy thinking I'm the servant of Krishna. So there is a real ego. False ego is, no, I'm the master. I'm the master of this body. I'm the master of this whole world. Everybody has to take care of me. To some extent, when we go down deep and think about us, we do have that false ego. To some extent, we're all working towards it. At least I do have it to good extent. So when situations arise, I have to sit down and think, am I trying to please my false ego, or am I really doing the service for service sake, So this is a very important thing. So we have to start questioning. So, he says mind functions through all these. Oh, hero, the object of the sense objects such as sound, touch. What is the sound I hear at? I hear to lectures. I hear to beautiful kirtan. And, when we dress the deities, or, we have beautiful deities at home, we take care of them. These are all, we have to purify our 5 senses. So the 5 senses, I see the beautiful form of the Lord with my eyes. I smell the flowers. Now, like when they give you flowers, we always smell the flowers. So, we can purify our olfactory sense. That's why in our temple, usually they will give you a little bit of, the, what is it called? The oil, and also the flower to smell, so that, they are actually touched the body of Krishna. So when you smell it or smell the flower, it purifies the olfactory sense. It purifies your eyes when you come and see Krishna every day. It purifies your hearing, and when you talk, it should be related to Krishna. I mean, it's not very easy that when you start, you have to talk about Krishna. But at least let's start with some little small bits. We can start with 1 round of chanting, so that we can start cleaning the mind of all the dirt that it has. So someday, we will be able to clean the entire mind. And why do we do that? Because we will be able to see our own reflection very nicely. We know that then our true ego will show up, that we are actually the servants of Krishna. We'll go to the next one. Mataji.
The soul's designation, the mind, is the cause of all tribulations in the material world. As long as this fact is unknown to the conditioned living entity, he has to accept the miserable condition of the material body and wander within this universe in different positions. Because the mind is affected by disease, lamentation, illusion, attachment, greed, and enmity, it creates bondage and a false sense of intimacy within this material world.
Now here, because Rahugana says, you're talking about the material body, but when it pains, I do feel the pain. When something pains, I do feel the pain. How come? You're saying I'm not this body. He says, because you're attached to the body. I mean, that's amazing. It takes time. It's a very, very high realization for a person when he's going through something. I mean, I just had a surgery and I was thinking that I am trying to understand Jada Bharata's teaching myself, because we just had an exam for Bhakti Vaibhava. And I'm trying to understand, when I have a pain, I do feel the pain. How do I get rid of the pain? I mean, that's a very high level. I mean, I'm in a very low situation. But he says that it's because of my attachment, because I do have an attachment to everything dealing with my body. When I don't have that attachment, I won't feel anything. I won't even feel the duality. And so one thing that I was remembering from Chaitanya Sharan Prabhu's one of the articles, he was saying that, in the spiritual world, you have a spiritual mind. You have it is something that is, like for example, if now you are here sitting, listening to the class, like if suppose you're at home, right? You need a television or a laptop to see the class, right? Or if you're talking to somebody on a phone, like if I meet Shraddha Mataji here, I talk to her directly, but if I want to tell her something tomorrow morning, I'll call her by phone, right? So I need a phone to talk to her when she's not next to me. But I don't need a phone to talk to her if she's next to me, because I can directly talk to her, right? So the analogy here is, I need this material mind to connect the material world to the soul inside my body. So the mind is the connection between the material world and the soul. So when I purify my mind and I say I don't have anything material to do, so slowly my mind becomes spiritual and I go back home, back to Godhead. I don't need anything. So while another analogy that he says, a very, very, very important analogy, he says, I have this body, I'm born, I get young, I get old, I dwindle, and I die. This is very normal. We see this happening with every living entity. Forget about human beings, animals, plants, trees, everybody. It's only a matter of time. He says, in this time, if I purify my mind, when I was 5-year-old, Prahlad Maharaj purified his mind when he was 5-year-old. At 5 years of age, his mind was completely out of material modes. He was completely transcendently situated. So for him, it didn't matter when he will leave his body. For some people, it will take 30 years. Some people take 60 years. So the job is nothing to do. Don't worry about the body. Your goal is to making sure your mind is purified. That should be what you focus on. So your chanting is the goal. It's the benediction for Kali Yuga. Chanting is what helps you purify your mind. So that's the most important job for anybody in this world. If you chant your rounds in the morning very nicely. Shankaranand Prabhu was telling one of our morning classes, he was saying that, morning time is mode of goodness. Afternoon is mode of passion. And night time is mode of ignorance. So we all know that the three modes of material nature stands by, and on top of the three modes is the transcendental level, right? So he says, if I am chanting in the evening, I have to move from the mode of ignorance to mode of passion to mode of goodness and then come to mode of transcendence, right? Not mode of transcendence, above the modes. You have to transcend the modes. So, if I have to take an airplane, where would I go? I go to the airport, right? I can't go to the bus station or a train station and think I want to go to the airport. I want to take an airplane. He says you have to get up in the morning to chant, to transcend the mode of goodness. Isn't that very simple analogy? If I get up, if I don't do my rounds in the morning, then it will take me forever to get to the transcendental situation. So he says that this is so important that I am able to get out of this false sense of intimacy within this material world. I need to get out of it. I cannot just be attached to these things. I have to chant, I have to transcend the three modes, and I have to get out of this, get to the transcendental level. At the transcendental level is where actually the purification happens. All the other things are just practice. I might have some rounds left in the evening and things like that, but our goal should be finishing the 16 rounds in the morning. Prabhu, can you read it?
The self-realized Brahmana Jada Bharata said, among the various material combinations and permutations, there are various forms and earthly transformations. For some reason, these move on the surface of the earth and are called palanquin carriers. Those material transformations which do not move are gross material objects like stones. In any case, the material body is made of earth and stone in the form of feet, ankles, calves, knees, thighs, torso, throat, and head. Upon the shoulders is the wooden palanquin, and within the palanquin is the so-called King of Savira. The body of the king is simply another transformation of earth, but within the body of your lordship is situated, and falsely thinking that you are the king of the state of Savira.
So this is what we were talking. It is not easy to think that all of them are earth. At the end of the day, when the soul leaves the body, it's going to be burned, and it's all going back to earth. So what am I worried about? I need to work on my mind. That's what he says. You're saying you're the master now because you're in a body that's the master. Tomorrow I might be a master. And again, to situations like these, he says the palanquin carriers, these material transformations do not move. There are some material transformations that does not move. Like for example, the wall, the doors, the windows, they're all material transformations too. My body is also a material transformation. So he says, why are you talking like this? You need to start, you need to get out of this. Yeah. Mataji, do you want to read the next one, please? Yeah, thank you. So now, yeah, go ahead.
All of us on the surface of the globe are living entities in different forms. Some of us are moving and some are not moving. All of us come into existence, remain for some time, and are annihilated when the body is again mingled with the earth. We are all simply different transformations of the earth. Different bodies and capacities are simply transformations of the earth that exist in the name only, for everything grows out of the earth, and when everything is annihilated, it again mingles with the earth. In the other words, we are but dust, and we shall but be dust. Everyone can consider this point.
So it is, it's a fact. It's a fact that is very true, I know, and that is something that he wants everybody to consider. At the end of the day, everything is going to become dust. Why be so much worried about? So any connections we have through this dust is also going to become dust. So the attachment. So I was just listening to a lecture and I was thinking that we are so attached to our family members, right? I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's no way I can say that I have no attachment to my family. But then I was listening that you have to have affection towards them, because affection is what is inborn within us. Because we are part of Krishna. Krishna has affection towards us, and we will also have affection. We should have affection towards our family members, but we should not be attached. Radheshyam Prabhu explains this. He says, how come you can have affection but not attachment? He says, you can have affection because thinking that the other family member is part of Krishna. Yes, every living entity, the trees, the ants, the animals, everybody is a part of Krishna. Everybody, you should have affection for everybody. You cannot harm anybody. That's why of course, everybody who believes in it doesn't eat meat. But we have affection towards all these living entities. We need to take care of them. But our attachment should be that they are part of Krishna. But they're not attached. I cannot be attached, this person is my spouse or my son or my parents or my brother. I can't have those attachments. I should have affection towards them, absolutely. You cannot hate somebody. I mean, that kind of a thought is completely more Mayavada philosophy, where they leave everything out and they want to go do nothing. No, for us, we want to have affection towards our kith and kin. But again, the affection is because they are part of Krishna. They are part of Krishna, who I am part too. Of course, in this life, we are connected. We don't know what will happen in our next lives, right? So we don't have anything like that. So we are not connected to them in that sense, but we still have to have affection. We should give it a try. It's not very easy to think that, I'm not going to be attached to anybody. But, as Krishna says, you have to practice. When you practice more and more, you'll be able to achieve that situation. Mataji, can you read the next one? Yeah.
Hare Krishna. What then is the ultimate truth? The answer is that non-dual knowledge is the ultimate truth. It is devoid of the contamination of material qualities. It gives us liberation. It is the one without a second, all-pervading and beyond imagination. The first realization of that knowledge is Brahman. Then Paramatma, the Supersoul, is realized by the yogis who try to see him without grievance. This is the second stage of realization. Finally, full realization of the same supreme knowledge is realized in the Supreme Person. All the learned scholars describe the Supreme Person as Vasudeva, the cause of Brahman, Paramatma, and others.
Thank you, Mataji. So we have again read this in Bhagavad Gita before, where he says, Krishna has a beautiful form. He has a beautiful Shama Sundara form. Here we see him as Shri Radha Madan Mohan. He lives in this beautiful place called Goloka Vrindavan. And we all eternally are from the spiritual world. There are people who believe that Brahman is the highest. Here they're saying that, like for example, the analogy Prabhupada gives in his purports is when you go to the sun planet. Like, any of us gone to sun planet now? No, right? But we see the sun rays every day. We can see it outside now. So there is a sun ray, and there is a sun that you can see up in the sky. But when we have the body to actually enter the sun planet, we will see there is one person sitting on a chariot, and his name is Vivaswan. Today, the sun god's name is Vivaswan. So he is sitting on the chariot and he is going in rotations to give the sun rays to all plants, as we had started when we said that Priyavrata, how he created the dvipas, in the beginning of the lecture. So sun planet is going around on the top of the Meru Parvata so that everybody can get the sunshine. Now for a person who's sitting here, they'll say, no. How can there be a person there? No, there's no way the person can be there. It's only the sun globe that you see. You see that big, beautiful effulgence that you see, that's sun. That's what most people who don't believe in it. Now again, as I said, ye yathamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyam. Krishna only reveals to some extent to some people. He will not reveal everything to everybody. Again, it depends on how envious the person is. Now here, similar analogy he gives. He says, Goloka Vrindavan is a beautiful place where we just read Brahma Samhita in the beginning. He has a beautiful Shama Sundara form. He lives there with all his associates. Radharani is personally there. So when you're looking at that, because Krishna is there, the effulgence of Krishna is Brahman. And he is also, I've given this analogy many times, but I love this analogy because, I remember when my son was really little and he used to ride his bike. I just took off his training wheels, but he never wanted me to touch him because I was worried that he's going to fall down. So I never let him see, but I'll be like this, suppose the bike falls, I can hold it. So I would hold it, but he will never get to know, and then he thinks that he did everything himself. So Krishna, even though we told Krishna, I just want to enjoy myself. I don't want to be with you, I'm just going myself. I just want to enjoy myself. Krishna is, as a loving father, never lets us go. But he never lets us realize either. Because he doesn't want to hurt us. He doesn't want to take away our independence. He comes as a Paramatma. In Mundaka Upanishad, it is said that the two little birds that sit in the heart, one bird is busy eating the fruit. The busy eating fruit bird is us. We're doing our sense gratification. We're enjoying. We're doing our own stuff in our world, very busy. But the other bird is just watching us. But when we stop eating this and look at Krishna, he'll show us the way and we can fly back home, back to Godhead. This is a shloka in Mundaka Upanishad. Where here we are looking at Krishna is within our heart and he also can come. He is the Paramatma. So in this particular verse, Jada Bharata is saying that Krishna is a Paramatma, he's also the Brahman, but he also still has this beautiful, beautiful Shama Sundara form. And that is the ultimate truth. That's the ultimate truth. Those people who understand that Krishna has the form and also respect his effulgence, that's Brahman, and also respect the Paramatma. There are yogis who think Paramatma is the highest. There are Mayavada philosophers who think Brahman is the highest. But according to Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, according to even all the Vaishnava acharyas, we know that Krishna, there is a beautiful form. I cannot imagine somebody cannot believe in the form because we have this form. We have these two hands. Krishna is called Keshava because he has beautiful fine hair. And everything that is talked about Krishna is also describing him, right? He is called Vasudeva because he's son of Vasudeva. So, everything, Nandana. So, everything that you describe Krishna is because we are describing his form. So that's what he explains here. He says that then the Paramatma, the super soul, is realized by the yogis who try to see him without grievance. The second stage of realization is that, right? The first stage is the Brahman, and then second stage is the Paramatma, and the third stage is when a person actually realizes that there is a supreme person, and he's considered, and he's the cause of Brahman, Paramatma, and everything else. Mataji, you can read.
My dear King Rahugana, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing celibacy, brahmacharya, strictly following the rules and regulations of a householder life, leaving home as a vanaprastha, accepting sannyasa, or undergoing severe penances in the winter by keeping himself submerged in water, or surrounding oneself in the summer by fire and the scorching heat of the sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee.
So very important. There are people who are celibate, they will not get everything. There are people who follow the rules and regulation of a householder life. They may not get. So what gets that? He has to smear his body with the dust of the lotus feet of a great devotee. I was remembering the class given by Radhika Raman Prabhu, and he was giving this beautiful lecture on forgiveness. And he was saying that Krishna forgives if you make a mistake, if your intention is wrong, and you do a good job, Krishna takes the good job. If your intention is right and you do a bad job, Krishna takes the intention. But then he said, when you offend a devotee, even if it is against Krishna, he doesn't mind anytime. But when you do it against a devotee, Krishna tells, I can't do anything about it. Because you have to ask my devotee. So, Vaishnava Aparadha is considered to be like a mad elephant offense. It's like you are taking care of your Bhakti Lata beach, you're taking care of your garden so beautifully, and you let a mad elephant go and stamp it. So you have to be extremely, extremely careful from doing a Vaishnava Aparadha. And the best thing he was saying that if suppose you think that you did an Aparadha, just directly go tell that person, fall on the person's feet and tell, I'm really sorry that I made this offense. Remembering the Ambarish Maharaj story, where Ambarish Maharaj, Durvasa Muni comes to Ambarish Maharaj and says, Ambarish Maharaj is actually doing the Ekadashi Vrata. So suddenly Ambarish Maharaj's kingdom, Durvasa Muni and all his disciples come and they say that we are going to eat. So Ambarish Maharaj is very happy. So he gets everything, he gets started with everything. They are preparing for him to come, but they all went to the river to have a bath. And it was getting time, usually you have a parana time where you have to break a fast. Some of the, acharyas in the kingdom said that it's okay for you to take a drop of water because then you don't break it completely. Because if he eats before Durvasa Muni comes, he's going to be so super upset. So he goes, so he just takes a drop of water. Durvasa Muni gets to know that and he's very upset. And he offends Ambarish Maharaj. So Krishna sends a Sudarshan Chakra to kill Durvasa because, he says, how could you do this to my devotee? And then now, so he runs, Durvasa Muni is running, and he's running and he goes to Brahma and he says, Brahma says, I can't do anything about it. He goes to Shiva, he says, I cannot do anything about it. He goes to Vishnu, he says, I cannot do anything about it either. It's only Ambarish Maharaj who can do something about it. So he runs and goes to Ambarish Maharaj and he says, I fall at your feet. Can you just help me? And then Ambarish Maharaj, of course, he's a Vaishnav. He just lets him go. He says, no, I don't have anything against you. Now here, when we looked at Kali Mata's, when she came out of the thing, when she killed everybody, you could see that Vaishnava Aparadha when somebody does. Maharaj says that it's not going to be that gross for us to see, like the skulls going up and down. But in depiction, it may not happen that way, but in true sense, that's how it is. You should never create any Vaishnava Aparadha. You should never do any offense to devotees. And here, Rahugana is offended. He said sarcastic words to Jada Bharata. It is said in Bhagavatam, Jada Bharata did feel a little prick. So isn't that Vaishnava Aparadha? But he just forgives him. And how does he forgive him? Can somebody tell me? It's a thought that came into his head that this person offended me. And how did he forgive him? Neglect. That's right. He neglected that thought. When I think somebody offended me, I just have to neglect that thought. Then I grow. Then I advance in my spiritual consciousness. When a thought comes that something is fearful, I neglect it. I slowly come out of that fear. When a thought comes of lust, I neglect it. Then I can control my lusty feelings. When a thought comes of any kind of an illusion, I neglect it. And I can overcome illusion. So he says that all kinds, Maharaja Jada Bharata says to Maharaja Rahugana that all kinds of the problems that we have here can be controlled with neglect. And how well can you neglect depends on how well you chant. The better chanter you are, the better you can neglect when it comes. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that this material world, he compares it to a bathroom. How long do you have to go sit in a bathroom? Do you like to go have meetings in the bathroom? This is what he says. He says, no, we just go, get our job done and get out. We don't spend our lifetime in bathroom. Similarly, we should not spend our lifetime in material world. We just go there, fine, we're already come, and then we have to get out of this place. We should not think, have plans to sit down and settle down here. Not thinking I need to get a better, when people ask for, I want to get into Indraloka or Chandraloka, Maharaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, all those higher planetary systems. It's like asking the jailer in the jail, can I get AC put on? I don't want to go out of the jail, but I want some AC. I want maybe some very delicious eating rasgulla and, something else that I can eat. But I'll still have birth, old age, death and disease. Only thing is people in the higher planetary systems live for a longer time. And they can enjoy sense gratification for a longer time. So, that way. Can we go to the next one?
Yeah. O King Rahugana, in this forest of material existence, there are 6 very powerful plunderers. When the conditioned soul enters the forest to acquire some material gain, the 6 plunderers misguide him. Thus, the conditioned merchant does not know how to spend his money, and it is taken away by these plunderers. Like tigers, jackals, and other ferocious animals in a forest that are ready to take away a lamb from the custody of its protector, the wife and children enter the heart of a merchant and plunder him in so many ways.
So the tigers, the jackals in the forest are your spouse, your children, the heart of the merchant, and plunder him in so many ways. So it's actually very gross to hear that. But in one sense, he does say that. But again, using neglect, I can always use it in my regard. I mean, I can do my duty, but not be attached to it. It takes time. As I said, it will take time for these things to actually sink in. It is really, I want to tell you that I did this chapter again. I love to read this chapter again and again because I haven't understood it, everything. I thought if I keep talking about it, maybe I will understand a drop of it. And maybe you all can help me understand this, most difficult verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is not easy. It takes time for us to really get and understand what he really means. We have to be careful. We should not be attached. We should, it's like, the more money you get, the more you want. Right? Who's happy with money? Everybody wants more. I always wonder, billionaires, why do they work anymore? Yeah? Yeah, I'm sure there are people who live in huts think that why do we work more? Right? We have enough to live in our life. Just a simple roj, dal, roti, sabji. That kind of living, yes. That's just more than enough to live, right? We want to have little palatial buildings and, things like that. Nothing wrong when we do it for Krishna. We have Krishna's temple in the house and we do it. So we are trying to dovetail everything towards Krishna. Because it's not our house. We pay the mortgage to Krishna's temple so we can really sustain ourselves. So Krishna is very merciful that way, Even though people like me have the sense gratification desires, he tries to help out to see that, some way we'll have a way out of it. Mataji.
In this forest, there are dense bowers composed of thickets of bushes, grass, and creepers. In these bowers, the conditioned soul is always disturbed by cruelly biting mosquitoes, envious people. Sometimes he sees an imaginary palace in the forest, and sometimes he is bewildered by seeing a fleeting friend or ghost, which appears like a meteor in the sky.
How many of us have come across envious people? You know, in one sense it's true. It's said that material world has, everybody who's in the material world is supposed to be envious, according to Srimad Bhagavatam. Envy is the basis of the material world. There are only degree differences. Some people are extremely envious who actually look envious. Some people are inwardly envious, but everybody has envy. That's the reason people are here, you know. I mean, that's what Srimad Bhagavatam says. That's what I was listening in the lecture. So sometimes the imaginary palace, like, you know, sometimes we think that, wow, you know, I'm just enjoying life. It's all good, all wonderful, this, wonderful, that. And suddenly I have a fear. I can see a ghost, or I can have some very bad experience with somebody. You know, it's just that, you know, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you have happiness, you have distress. You have happiness, you have distress. You have happiness, you have distress. So this is the duality. You have the dual thing that it all is because of the sense perception. In true sense, there's nothing like that is happy only. There's nothing like that is sad. So in true sense, anything that is connected to Krishna is all good, you know. There's nothing that is bad at all. So sometimes we think that, oh, you know, when we gain something, we are happy. Oh, I get a perk of another $100. I just feel, oh, wow, today I've got so much more money. Tomorrow I lose some money. I say, oh my gosh, my money is gone. So, you know, this is just my perception that money is going to give me happiness, right? Or having a wonderful house is going to give me. It's just my perception. And it's just going to be gone. It's like he says, it's like a meteor in the sky. You know, meteors just come, appear, just disappear. Come, appear, disappear, come, appear. So our attachment is what is going to cause the concern. I can continue to exist, do my duty and leave. You know. We have a few more, and I thought we'll take some reflections also. Mataji.
O killer of enemies, Maharaja Rahugana, if the conditioned soul somehow or the other gets out of his dangerous position, he again returns to his home to enjoy sex life, for that is the way of attachment. Thus, under the spell of the Lord's material energy, he continues to loiter in the forest of material existence. He does not discover his real interest even at the point of death.
That's right. How much do people run around? And, you know, envy is, of course, the foundation, but, you know, lust is the main reason behind, lust is what gives people a lot of attachment towards each other. And it's one of the most difficult thing to let go. It is said that when we keep looking at Radha Madan Mohan's beautiful face, you know, especially Radha Madan Mohan, because he is a Madana Mohana, you know, he is, you know, Radharani is considered Madana Mohana Mohini, and he is the one who actually can help you control your lusty desires. So, you know, you can pray to Krishna, you know, because we cannot do anything. We only have to pray to Krishna that what I'm chanting every day, my goal is, I don't want to be doing this over and over again. You know, it's just chewing the chewed. I was remembering one of the verses from when Yamunacharya is talking. He becomes the king, and he says, my attraction towards Krishna has increased so much that, you know, Yamunacharya was a king in before he became a saint. So he says that I used to have so much sense gratification, but when the thought of sense gratification comes into my head now, when I'm so attached to Krishna, the thought of it makes me spit at the thought, you know. So you can imagine the enjoyment in this material world that sense gratification gives is the highest. But he's saying that when I think of my love for Krishna, I spit at the thought of something that people run for here, right? So the whole world runs around that. But I am thinking of Krishna, when I am thinking of my connection with Krishna, I don't even consider this anything. So that much of pleasure is there in Krishna's service. Just wanted to say that. So he says, I work so hard day and night to come back and enjoy sex life. So, that is the way of attachment. Thus, under the spell of Lord's material energy, he continues. The material energy will always work on it. So I have to get out of this material nature. That's why I have to chant in the morning. So if I continue to chant in the morning, I will be in the transcendental mode. I will transcend the 3 modes. So when the modes don't affect me anymore, well, I'm not going to be affected. Well, I can try to at least work on it. Yeah. Can you read the next one?
My dear King Rahugana, you are also a victim of the external energy, being situated on the path of attraction to material pleasure. So that you may become an equal friend to all living entities, I now advise you to give up your kingly position and the rod by which you punish criminals. Give up attraction to sense objects and take up the sword of knowledge, sharpened by devotional service. Then you will be able to cut the hard knot of illusory energy and cross to the other side of the ocean of nations.
Yeah. So he says now that you need to stop doing what you're doing. You think you're the master, you're punishing your people who are not doing the things that you're telling to do. And, just give up your kingly position. You've enjoyed it for a long time. Just go and focus your life on, Krishna. Now again, I want to mention that Prabhupada says that we don't have to leave anything and go. We have to add everything to what we have now. We have to dovetail our life, associate with devotees, come and listen to the, every day you can listen to lectures because it's available online. All Guru Maharajas give lectures. We have Srila Prabhupada's lectures available online. And chant regularly in the morning. Read Srimad Bhagavatam. Get to work. Get your work done. Because, somebody was asking, Maharaj, how can I study for Krishna? Because I have to, whatever I do, whatever karma I do, I'm doing this for Krishna. Like for example, if I'm cooking something, of course I want to make the preparation the best of best because Krishna is going to eat it. So that I can relate easily to Krishna because he's actually going to eat it. But my result is also offered to Krishna. When I'm at work, I have to do my work so nicely because my work is going to be dedicated to Krishna. The time that I'm spending, because the money that I get is going to be used for Krishna service. I have to do some work. If I'm in the material world, I cannot say, oh wow, I'm Krishna conscious today and I'm not going to do any work and I'm going to sit. I will have a fall down. But I have to do my work. I have to do, if I'm a householder, I have to take care of my family. If I work, I have to take care of my work. If I have to educate my children. I have to make sure that they understand the philosophy nicely. I have to do my job. But again, I should not be attached to what I do. If at work somebody doesn't recognize my work, it's not going to affect me because I didn't even do it for them. I did it for my Krishna. My Krishna is always happy with whatever, even if my intention was good and even if I didn't do my good job, he's happy anyway. So that's not my job at all, to impress people, But the problem is we're always trying to impress using our false ego that people tell me I am good, That's absolutely there in me, and that's why I'm just trying to tell, I'm sure, not on all of you. But when I do some job, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I need to get the recognition. But I hope it'll take some sooner time for me to get rid of the thought that, I'm doing this for Krishna. It doesn't matter whether somebody's appreciating you or not. Prabhu, can you read the next one? Yeah, we have another 20 minutes, but we have a few more.
Srila Sukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, O son of Mother Uttara, there were some waves of dissatisfaction in the mind of Jada Bharata due to his being insulted by King Rahugana, who made him carry his palanquin, but Jada Bharata neglected this and his heart again became calm and quiet like an ocean. Although King Rahugana had insulted him, he was a great Paramahamsa. Being a Vaishnava, he was naturally very kind-hearted, and he therefore told the king about the constitutional position of the soul. He then forgot the insult because King Rahugana pitifully begged pardon at his lotus feet. After this, he began to wander all over the earth just as before.
So that's what he did. He just neglected. He did have that little prick. So that means even at that stage of Jada Bharata, where he went through so much crisis and his mind is so totally dedicated to Krishna, that thought will still come. I have to neglect it. So can you imagine that thought? Somebody comes and sits and blasphemes me at my face. Will I think of preaching to that person? I mean, what great person he was. He was telling him about the constitutional position. He comes and blasphemed him so much. And he told him that, he sarcastically he scolded him. He said, I'm your master and you're doing this to me and I will punish you. Everything. And after hearing all this, he's still trying to help him out. That is Vaishnava. And here again, he is saying Rahugana was not just a simple person. He was a Paramahamsa too. He was a great person. He knew what would happen if he offended Jada Bharata. So he immediately, fell at his feet and said, I'm really sorry. I want to learn, So that's what a person should do. I remember one of the times when Guru Maharaj was saying that if they don't take your forgiveness, go back and ask for forgiveness again and again and again and again till the person forgives you. I mean, that is a Vaishnava, So you should be very careful from not offending. So this is actually, I don't know if, can you see it? You can? Okay, good. I can actually move it this way, so does that move there? No, it doesn't. Okay. Can you read it, man? Oh, that's fine. That's okay, sorry, one of you can read it, yeah.
When King Parikshit asked Shukadeva Goswami about the direct meaning of the material forest, Shukadeva Goswami replied as follows. My dear king, a man belonging to the mercantile community, Vanik, is always interested in earning money. Sometimes he enters a forest to acquire some cheap commodities like wood and earth and sell them in the city at good prices. Similarly, the conditioned soul, being greedy, enters this material world for some material profit. Gradually, he enters the deepest part of the forest, not really knowing how to get out. Having entered the material world, the pure soul becomes conditioned by the material atmosphere, which is created by the external energy under the control of Lord Vishnu. Thus, the living entity comes under the control of the external energy, Daivi Maya. Living independently and bewildered in the forest, he does not attain the association of devotees who are always engaged in the service of Lord. Once in the bodily conception, he gets different types of bodies one after another under the influence of material energy and impelled by the modes of material nature, which is Sattva Guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. In this way, the conditioned soul goes sometimes to the heavenly planets, sometimes to the earthly planets and sometimes to the lower planets and lower species. Thus, he suffers continuously due to different types of bodies. These sufferings and pains are sometimes mixed. Sometimes they are very severe and sometimes they are not. These bodily conditions are acquired due to the conditioned soul's mental speculation. He uses his mind and 5 senses to acquire knowledge, and these bring about the different bodies and different conditions. Using the senses under the control of the external energy, Maya, he's generally baffled. By Maya, the living entity suffers the miserable conditions of the material existence. He is actually searching for relief, but he is generally baffled, although sometimes he is relieved after great difficulty. Struggling for existence in this way, he cannot get the shelter of pure devotees who are like bumblebees engaged in the loving service at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu.
So this kind of summarizes the whole thing. I mean, there's a lot more to talk about Jada Bharata. But, so we are, like Vanik or merchants that they want some sense gratification. And just for that, they go deep down into the forest. And it's so hard for them to return back, and it's just out of, the only way that he can get out of is he gets a chance to meet a pure devotee and surrenders to the pure devotee and takes his help and plans his way back home, back to Godhead. Otherwise, it's just going to be chewing the chewed, going up and down in this material universe, going to the higher planetary systems, enjoying, then falling down into one of the animal kingdoms, and then again suffering in through the animal kingdom, and again going back and going down and going up. He will continue to have this over and over again, and it will never end. The process will never end. So if it needs to end, he needs to take the shelter of a pure devotee. And as we had mentioned earlier, he should surrender and, get to the process so that he knows how to get rid of this 3 modes of material nature and be situated in transcendence and clear his mind so that at any point of time when this gross body is ready to leave, we don't have to worry about the gross body. Because our mind is situated in Krishna. Like Jada Bharata was ready, even though the people were, the Kali, the dacoits were actually going to offer him to Kali. He didn't care. He's like, if Krishna wanted it, let it happen. I'm not worried. Because his mind was totally absorbed in Krishna. Maybe I'll stop there and then we'll take some comments and questions. We only have 15 minutes.
Thank you so much, Sukeshvari Mataji. I'm so glad I came to the class and going so deep and connecting, especially connecting it to the chanting that we need to do to emphasize. And there were so many gems that you were so mercifully distributing this morning to all of us and those who are online there. And I really liked neglecting the mind and when we are chanting, especially there, and how well you neglect depends on how well you chant. So that I really found the connection to be very powerful. And then also, attitude is contagious. So that brings association of devotees. That's so important. And one of the verses, I really liked how you picked up the gems from the three chapters in this fifth canto. Really very nice. And I wish you could go on more today like that. And then, and I like your analogies and the storytelling. I think it was very nice, and especially the analogy about airport. Like if you want to take an airplane, you have to go to the airport. You don't go to a bus stop. And quite often the mind will wander and it'll take you to the bus stop when you really wanted to take the airplane. So I'm sure others want to clarify as well. So I have so many points, many more points I'd like to talk about, but I'll give a chance to others to tell.
Thank you, Mataji. But I just want to mention that these are all from Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm just like trying to do like as a parrot, so I understand what I have read. Yeah, thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the enlightening class. I was tuning in at home before I came here. I had one question. I think this question it's always been there in my mind when it comes to balancing material life and spiritual life. So how attached or how do you get the, so for example, all of us have duties in this material world to disperse, like either you're an engineer or a student or householder, everybody has a set of prescribed duties, but how do you constantly so one question is if let's say if somebody's trying to overtake you or cheat you, like how Arjuna had his duty to fight the war, but he was shivering for a bit because there were cousins. So do we have to fight for our rights if somebody's trying to cheat us? Is that okay? Or should I be like, this is material world, I should not be fighting, I should just leave it to Krishna and he will take care? That is one question. Second question is, how do you balance between both?
So is this about work? Where you're going to work and somebody's trying to cheat and take your work and submit it?
Yeah. take credits and sometimes not sure, like politics, like politics in work and cheating in work, and I think that's a problem that a lot of us face. But sometimes I'm like, I should fight for what is correct, and then sometimes I'm like, but why should I care? I should try not to be attached to this work, I should give up the results. But then I'm like, but Krishna asked Arjuna to fight for the rights, fight for his duty, so what do I do?
Well, I said I'm still learning, so I don't have the right answer, I don't know, but I'm just going to give it a try. Personally, when politics come, that's something I can answer, because many times at work there's a lot of politics. I just don't get into it. I just do my work and get off. And there are people who will really extremely come and talk to me like, oh, you didn't think that was right and this is right? And I was like, yeah, I just give a smile. I will not talk either ways, because either ways you're going to be in dirt. And again, as I said, attitudes are contagious. They will always be, because it's going to be more difficult, especially when you're working, because you're trying to follow something and the entire world follows something else. Because everybody is running behind competition. They want to be on the top. They want to head ahead of you. They want to go. So, yeah, there have been situations when I'm like, oh my gosh, I mean, and then I would want to take over because I am an extremely competitive person myself. I know that. But when it comes to that, I just try to tell that, long run, am I going to waste my time doing that? And then I kind of calm down. So I don't worry so much about, But I will, of course, be very careful about doing my duty, because like my boss should surely be happy with what I'm doing. I don't have to be a super pleaser. If I do my job, they will automatically be pleased. I mean, I don't have to be like, going and mascamarifying with my, putting buttering and things like that. But I have to still do my work, do my job, because I get paid for it. But with politics, I would never deal with anybody. Yeah, and I would say that is probably true everywhere. It's always nice to stay a little away. Because there will always be a set of people everywhere, that will cause concern and neglect. Yeah. I mean, as far as politics, absolutely I neglect it. But there are many other situations where I totally get involved and I get into trouble, because I'm not there in neglected level yet. But at work, I think I'm very afraid. I'm very afraid. I have this absolute fear that I'll be taken away from Krishna all the time. That I should be very careful, especially when I'm, but I may not do that everywhere though. Thank you, Mataji.
I believe that when love on someone, maybe even a child, your own child, becomes so much that it reaches a level which they don't deserve, love becomes a pain. Love, it is no more love, but it has become a trap. How do you handle this kind of attachment? You would have faced a lot of things like this in your life, right?
Yeah, when you love your child.
Love your child, but then now it has reached a level where love has become a pain. It has become a trap. It is not allowing you to move in the right direction, which you feel is right. So how do you handle such a situation?
I didn't get your question completely. So if you love somebody because of your affection towards your child, the child is causing you a pain.
Love on the child is causing you a pain because it is not allowing you to move in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of an analogy. Like suppose I'm telling my child something, my child doesn't listen to me and says, you're no one to tell me anything. I want to do what I want to do, right? I mean, it's going to cause me pain. Well, I think just being in Krishna consciousness, you tell yourself that you just did your duty. You're done with your duty. That's it. You don't have any attachment, or you don't have any connection with what you have tried your best to teach the good things to your child. Now it's in their hands to decide. When they are adults especially, if they make some mistake, I have nothing to do with it. Because, Krishna also says that you do your duty, don't worry about the result. You have to still do. I mean, even at that time I'll say, you know what, this is not right, I just want to tell you. But I should not be attached whether he listens to me or not. It's probably a case everywhere, with friends or husband or wife or anybody. I'll just do my duty because as a parent or a spouse, I have to tell the person, okay, this is not right. I don't think this is going to work. But where does that attachment come? When I expect somebody to do something for me. Oh, I told and you didn't listen. That's the time I get attached to. I'm doing this as my duty. I want to tell you that this is the right thing to do. If you don't do it, it's your concern. And I just step back. That's it.
Even though it is your child?
Absolutely. Okay. What else can you do?
Yeah.
I mean, especially more in the US. You can. You wanted to say something? Huh?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, and I just wanted to add that, especially since it's your child and you have got affection towards the child, and they are not listening to sound advice. It's very difficult to watch them walk on that path where they're going to be more miserable, but it's your duty and like you said that. Don't be attached to the results. The problem is coming because of controlling thing in us. I told you and you didn't listen. But beyond that, as a parent, you still have to suffer through their suffering, because now you can only helplessly watch them, go and touch fire. And also we have to remember that you can't resolve other people's karma. The karma just comes and gets you. And it'll be their karma, you can't do so. That ahankara vimud atma karta hamiti manyate, that's a very strong verse that We have to let go. But then as a parent, you have to be there, that when they fall down, you have to be there to pick them up. So parenting is difficult. It is not an easy thing, yeah. Very, very difficult.
And Mataji is very experienced. Yeah.
Like I want to do something and I strongly feel that my intention is right, but my family does not like it. So because they assume that whatever is happy for them is happy for me. Right, in that way, right? So my family, if I go and do according to my intention, my family will get immersed in sadness. So this is a tricky state, right?
Maybe we can talk offline about it. Yeah. No. I mean, I can relate to what you're saying. I can tell you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have to, when it comes to your child, yes. But the most important thing is, I think as a mature parent, you need to know what is, of course, every parent wants to protect their child. No parent is thinking that, oh, I want my child to, get destroyed. No. Whatever they do it for our good. There's no question. At that moment, we might have clashes between our parents, but long run, they're always our well-wishers, right? So when we look at it in that perspective, things go a different way. But, as far as, when you're saying as a child, as Mataji said, we should just have to, yes, if it's good or bad, we'll have to suffer. And as you say, everybody, one of my god sister, Hemangopi, was telling me one day that we have to do our duty of bringing up our kids. But then after that, the karma is theirs. You don't have any control on their karma. Right? Krishna doesn't want to control our independence. He lets us do what we want to do. Who are we to control our so-called attached family members? We only can tell them what is right, what is wrong. If they want to go a different way, but one thing that I have, power of prayer. Power of prayer is most amazing. Most amazing. Every time I've had a problem in life and I would just pray to Krishna, it will take time. It will take 15 years. It will take 20 years. But the prayer will come true. It might take 10 minutes. So I'm not saying everything will take 15 years. But it might take 10 minutes. But the power of prayer, especially for a parent praying for their child, it'll always come true. I just feel that so... I feel it very strongly that Krishna listens to... not just... I'm just saying that because you said a child. I think power of prayer is true for any living entity. When you're praying for any living entity to Krishna, it will really be helpful. You can ask for something. We have to ask Krishna only for everything, right? We don't have anybody else to ask for. I understand. Even to start with, Prabhupada says, if you have a material desire, ask Krishna. Why go anybody else? Go ask Krishna that I have this material desire, I want to get a big bungalow. I'm just telling for example. Krishna will purify the desire. The greatness of Krishna is, he will give you the bungalow also, and he will also purify you of all the material desires. So that's the amazing fact. He will give you what you want, but then also there will be a situation when you actually have it, you will actually not enjoy it. So that's the amazing part. He will purify you of all the desires. So, yeah. Mataji, did you want to comment anything? Because we have another 1 minute.
Thanks for the great talk. So I had a question, like when we go in the real world, like at work or kids' schools or things like that, right? We sometimes come across sanskars which are very opposite to the spiritual sanskars that we are. Then how do you, what do you do in that situation? Like, how do you build... Like
samskars at different places?
Sorry?
Samskars in like at schools and work?
Right, like different sanskars, like different way of thinking. So let's say you go from compassion and you see opposite of compassion there, right? Or you will see manipulation and you want honesty, or so things like that, right? So just totally opposite. So how do you deal with that? How do you build tolerance for that, or and not get too affected, or like feel like a victim kind of a thing?
I think we're in the wrong place, right? Everything is wrong here. In true sense, there are only very few people who are really truthful. 99% is all false. Everybody is in the killing spirit. Everybody's in competition. Everybody's super envious. I mean, most of them, there are very few people who are really very down to earth and really want to do something spiritually, really want to help out. Because at least we are lucky, we are in the first part of the Kali Yuga. In the last part, everything will go more worse. So, in that sense, that should make me more alive and think that, wow, do I really want to live with these people forever? Do I want to come back to this place? No, I don't want to. I just want to be able to get out of this place. This should increase my eagerness to really chant and surrender and associate with devotees more. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I'll just end with that, we're almost done. Bhaktivinoda Thakur tells in his analogy, he says, when I go to the market every day to buy vegetables. Well, when I talk to the merchant, the salespeople, I don't talk deep down about my life to them. I only talk about how much is the price of this, price of that, buy mercantile business and leave. So my business with everybody who's a non-devotee is a mercantile business. I just talk to them, get my work done and out. But the really deep down connections are only with devotees and with Bhagavatam, with Guru Maharaj, with people who are really going to help me grow in my spiritual life. Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. And please excuse me for all the offenses I have done. And thank you so much for helping me learn this chapter. Hare Krishna.